what Mike and I like to do is kind of go behind the red curtain. So you guys can know these musicians when you do go see the San Francisco Symphony and Star Wars. You'll know people on the stage, which is pretty cool. What is the difference of playing with a movie versus just a symphony concert? How is that different as far as the rehearsals go and prepping for something like this?
Well, one of the real interesting things about preparing for a, well, how do I start this off without babbling? When we rehearse
Babble away, bro.
normally-
It's okay.
When we normally rehearse with a conductor, there's no movie, there's no visual, there's nothing that we have to be kind of chained to. And if you miss, you're off. You know, some of the sound effects in movies are timed with things that happen in the music. So we're very used to regular pieces like a Beethoven, Mahler, having a little flexibility. If someone wants to stretch a theme out, if the conductor does, if a player does, we're trained to be very flexible, to be listening at all moments, to try to key in with what the tempo is, how fast are we moving, am I in tune? Timing is a very different thing with movies because we often have to wear what's a little earpiece called a click track. And so it actually clicks like a metronome. It's in your eardrum so that you know how fast the tempo is, and you have to be in that exact bar at that moment. So it's much more rigid as far as, you know, you can't just, oh, I love this theme, I'm going to stretch out Yoda's theme longer. No, you have to be with this. So you have to find a good balance of trying to play musically and stretch that and do the same thing you wanted to do maybe, but bring it out in a different way so that it still fits the scene and you're still staying on track, or you're really, you know, going to cause some problems for you and your colleagues. So that's very different, trying to time something that's, you know, to the second.
Very interesting. And if you watch the movies, when you go to the symphony, you'll see that the conductor has a huge computer screen in front of them. So they have kind of some metrics going over. They're right in time. They're trying to kind of keep the orchestra together. How does that kind of work, Guy? Do you know from that conductor perspective, or you just kind of follow them?
Only once have I seen from the audience where I could actually see the screen in front of them, and I think each movie is structured differently, but one of the ones I saw actually had a large green bar that went across the screen, and so once it hit the side, that was the end of a bar. And then there was another little blinker in another corner that would say each beat within a bar. Music is structured within bars, so there might be 4 beats, 3 beats, 6 beats. So it would give the conductor a good overview of how long pacing for each bar would be, and what the internal beats were like too. So I think they don't always love having to be right on the beat exactly. There's, again, the flexibility issue.
Are you sure with the green bars he wasn't playing Candy Crush? Like he's just up there like, I'm getting down.
It could have been the Death Star lighting up, you know.
Exactly. We're going to have to play past the microphone. Sure. And Adam, a lot of people might not know this, but you're actually a triple threat. You play trumpet in the symphony, in the opera, and the ballet. That's pretty amazing, right? You guys are supposed to go, wow, that's amazing. Big time.
I'm actually a guest with the symphony for these movies and for various other things, but my main job is principal trumpet in the opera and the ballet.
Yeah, which is awesome. What's it like to, you know, kind of cross over and do movies? Like, can you kind of walk us through some of the differences as far as performing, you know, a movie score as opposed to a ballet or an opera?
Sure. I mean, there's so many differences. It's really exciting to get to play some of this music that we grew up on. I mean, like Guy said before, like you know, a lot of us probably play brass instruments because of John Williams' music, you know, and hearing it as kids. I mean, just that first note of the first Star Wars, you know, I mean, it's just like, oh, it just grabs you. And, you know, as Guy was talking about the playing with the click track in, you know, it's so much different even in a regular symphonic concert, but especially with dancers involved or singers involved. I mean, the concept of time is so flexible from night to night, and there's just so many variables. And you know, in some of these big, great opera choruses, you're trying to coordinate people in the pit, people on stage, somebody backstage playing in a banda. You know, so in some regards, having, you know, just playing this movie music with a click where there's not really any of that, you know, the click is kind of the law. And you know, some of us have had the opportunity to record some soundtrack stuff up at Skywalker Ranch with a click. This is kind of a cool hybrid because, you know, in those sessions we can basically do it over and over again until we get it just right. In this, it still has the energy of a live performance because you can't go back, but then you also have this element of the click track, and it's actually very different. But I love it. I mean, as a brass player, you know, playing movie scores It's like kid in a candy store, basically.
It's such a neat insight to see how much is going on. You know, sometimes when you watch a movie and you listen to the score, you know, or go to the symphony or the opera, you kind of get caught up in what you're seeing on stage. I love this insight of kind of seeing, you know, I don't want to call it chaos, but just everything that's happening for all these people to pull this off. And I was talking to you guys before, you know, in the other room, and that's one of the things I love about SF Live Arts. I mean, we live in such a kind of a crazy world where it seems like it's so hard to kind of get anything done. And anytime I go see a live performance, I go, wow, look at all these people working together and they're making this happen. And how come the world can't be this way? So I just get inspired. I was watching you play, and I got to ask about kind of the physicality of playing the trumpet and just, you know, I'm sure you guys all have your stories, but at times it looked like your eyeballs were going to pop out. I mean, do you ever bust a blood vessel in your eye? I mean,
I'm just that into the music.
It's just, I mean, it seems so intense, and it's one of the things I love about live music is I love watching, you know, the eyebrows move and like the different ways that the notes and stuff kind of you know. What am I trying to say, Carrie?
Yeah, like
Contort the actual muscles in the face and stuff. So can you kind of, I don't know, talk about the physicality of playing your instrument?
Yeah, well, I mean...
And does it creep you out that I look that detailed in your face? Like,
I'm feeling it.
people are listening to music. I'm like, man, look at his left eyebrow. Whoa.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to produce a sound on our instruments, I mean, you know, like a singer has their vocal cords, a string player has a string. You know, for us, we have just such a very small muscle group in our embouchure, and the lips vibrate together, coupled with air speed. That's right. That's right.
nice.
Yeah. But you know, so and there's a certain amount of compression that occurs naturally with the air to get the air for different notes. And you know, we try. I try to be as effortless as possible, but you know, sometimes if you're into the music, especially jazz, like you're not thinking about effortless mastery. You're getting into the music, and sometimes you gotta.
Yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay, I have a few questions for Forrest. You can
Pass that mic.
Pass the mic on down.
Actually, let me throw something in
Yeah,
before you do
please.
about Adam's predecessor. He actually did have eye problems, and he had to stop playing because of the pressure of the instrument. So he said, well, you know what I would like to do is start a music program in a school. So he had a degree in math already, so he went back to San Jose State to get a teaching certificate. And then he looked for a school that had no band but did need a math teacher. So he got the math teaching job and then started the band, actually used a lot of his own money buying instruments and
Awesome.
raising money and that sort of, and he created a massive program for a high school. I believe it was a high school. May have been a
Adam's feeling a little pressure right now. Adam's like,
Right?
nah, I got to start a high school band.
That's awesome. No, I love that. I love seeing, you know, there's some kids over here. I love seeing how music really does affect. I mean, watching Star Wars, you were inspired by that to play an instrument. So it's really cool to have kids come out to the symphony and see these movies and music. So you started, I read that you played the tuba starting at age 8.
That is correct.
The tuba's almost as big as you at the age. What made you decide to play the tuba out of all the brass instruments?
I didn't want to play the tuba. I wanted to play the French horn, which is what I started on. And I'm not sure if I just was so terrible that they wouldn't let me continue, or I have a feeling it's that I was the biggest kid and you had to be able to carry the tuba across the field. Actually, Abe Torchinsky was the tuba player in the Philadelphia Orchestra for many years, and he wrote a book about matching children with instruments. And he said the tuba should be given to large boys who are content with simple tasks.
That's awesome. And that was you. That's amazing. Okay, so I also read too that you have played for commercials and films yourself. Can you
Little bit.
tell us a little bit about the process for you as a musician? We learned about the composer and the directors, but for you as a musician, what is that like coming in? Do you only have one try, one take, or what's the pressure behind it?
Well, I always felt pressure because the people I would work with on commercials, this was back when I was in Chicago, I used to do a fair number of jingles, and the people I would work with were so good that they rarely needed second takes. And so the pressure was on for me not to stick out and cause a problem. But fortunately, oddly enough, a couple of the guys who wrote jingles, when you were new, they would write you fairly simple parts. And as they found that you could get better and better, they would write more complex parts for you. So they kind of broke me in gently. But to this day, I can sing you the jingles for, Frosted Mini Wheats. And actually, one of my favorites, I don't know if you remember, Schlitz Beer had an ad campaign, and it was, "You take my Schlitz, I'll beat you. You take my Schlitz, I'll throw you in the lake." And it was kind of dubbed the drink Schlitz or I'll kill you campaign. Wow. And it was extremely unsuccessful. But anyway, we did some sessions. We laid down 8 really good Schlitz commercials. They were great, but the day we laid them down, they fired their ad agency. So I never got any residuals from all of Yeah, poor Forrest. But they were really good ads. The Tall Ships campaign, they were wonderful. So.
That's awesome. Okay, let's move on to Daniel. Daniel playing the French horn over here. Daniel, so this is you're just completing your first year at the San Francisco Symphony.
Yes,
Tell us-
I'm just completing
Yeah,
my
let's
first
give him a round of
year.
applause.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite highlights of playing in the San Francisco Symphony? It's quite an achievement.
It's playing with these guys. It's playing with my colleagues because, as you all know, the San Francisco Symphony has had I don't even know the amount of recordings that are out there with CDs and albums and everything. And when I was learning how to play in an orchestra, I would go to those recordings because they're just electrifying. They just have so much personality and so much life and nuances. And it was incredible to hear all the people I ended up playing with on those recordings and being able to share the stage with them every week. And it's incredible.
That's awesome.
Dana, I got to ask, your first year, is there any kind of symphony hazing that goes on? Do they put a banana in your French horn? Is there any that you can tell us? I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that you can't talk about, but is there any kind of tradition like that? Are you going to start one?
So I don't. I hope to God no. So far, nothing bad has happened. I mean, I've been told some really crazy stories of some of my colleagues, what happened to them back in the day when they were trying to get secured and get tenure in the orchestra and stuff, and that keeps me up at night. So I try not to think about it too much. But yeah, it's a great environment and it's incredible. So, yeah.
And there's so much music within Star Wars. Tell me how you the chops. So that's what you use for your lips, keeping them really fresh and able to play for long durations of time. How do you keep the stamina up for your chops during Star Wars?
Yeah. So as a brass player, as my colleagues would tell me, you can't. You gotta do practice on it's just like weight lifting. You've got to push the boundaries. You gotta practice endurance and everything, but you also can't do it too much. And so I gotta do my normal practice every day. But when I think I gotta have a Star Wars rehearsal from 10 to 12:30, I know it's going to be constant playing. So I'll do a nice, gentle, easy, just warm up to get things going before that and then go into that. And then the days leading up to that, you just got to practice running through it and seeing how far you can go until you got to kind of chill out and take a break. It's a lot of preparation because it's heavy.
Absolutely.
And especially these movies.
Yeah.
Super crazy. Finally, we got to talk to Tim. Pass that microphone. I don't know if you guys follow the SS Symphony on YouTube, but Tim actually has his own video. It's pretty awesome. I watch it.
Yes, it's cool.
Uh-oh. One of the greatest satisfactions you can have playing in the San Francisco Symphony is knowing that if you work hard every day, you too can have your own drone shot.
It's very impressive. And Tim, one of the things that I thought was really interesting is that you compare your work musically with Booz, being a mixologist, which I found very interesting. It was about taking different parts of things and kind of turning it into something that's enjoyable. You care to elaborate on that?
Yeah, sure. Maybe we won't get into why I like Booz so much, but
one of the things that I hope all of you gathered while watching us play these Star Wars arrangements is that we weren't all playing at the same time. There were times that all 5 of us were playing, sometimes one, sometimes 2 or 3. And that is a good example visually of what a composer has to do. A composer has to look at however many instruments are available to them. In the case of an orchestra, there's 106 of us. And they know the sounds and the sound capabilities of every single instrument, and then they choose how much of what instrument in what manner is going to play what they would like. And so my grandfather was actually a bartender in Hegwish. I don't know if anyone knows where that is, out in south of Chicago. And so I started kind of getting into mixology just kind of as a way to kind of connect with him. And I found that there was a direct connection whenever you were mixing a drink together with how much you use of what liquor or bitters or whatever ingredient you want to use, and the effect of that, not only just in the flavor, but kind of what it does to your psyche. Like a good drink can kind of, I think someone said, it loosens the lips and relaxes the soul, which I think is a very nice way to put it. But music serves the same purpose, and one thing that I've really enjoyed playing in the orchestra is we can feel the crowd, we can feel the energy that they bring to a concert, we can feel when they're bored. That's actually surprising. But you can feel what happens when people listen to music and listen to something that's really great and really special. And you can see as people leave the concert the change that happens in them. So just like, and I apologize for this, just like in a bar when people have been there for a while, they usually are having a good time. And I like to think that the drinks have something to do with that. In our own way, we are loosening or relaxing the audience from kind of the struggles of life, especially in a big city, the tumultuous nature of city life. And we're taking you out to the country, we're taking you to a whole different world and a whole different experience within 2.5 hours. And it's a really special aspect of what we can give to our community. And yes, that is how I tie it to cocktails.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Fantastic. Come on.
What an answer.
Tim, I also know that you started composing your own music recently. And with
Yes.
that in mind, can you kind of, I mean, do you have like an evaluation now of the works that you play, especially the Star Wars stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, John Williams is a far better composer than I am. I'll admit that. I actually had a piece premiere just 2 nights ago down in Southern California. And I got to see what it's like for an audience for the first time to hear a brand new work, which was kind of
Awesome.
fascinating. But when I'm sitting in the orchestra, I can evaluate these really great composers like Mahler or Beethoven or Strauss, and I can listen to them in a way of evaluating, if I was sitting there and had to write this, how would I come up with that? And it's absolutely fascinating. And we do play, I shouldn't say this, we do play some bad composers. And so it's very rare, and they kind of sneak in, and everyone's like, oh, they got us. But even in those situations, I can look at the score and I can kind of listen to what the orchestra is doing and say, oh, this was a bad choice, that was a bad choice. And these arrangements, you guys are really lucky. I've tried to arrange some of this music. It's extremely difficult. I would never touch a lot of these. And whoever arranged these, some of them are named and some of them aren't, is unbelievable. Some of these arrangements are really clever. So, yeah, there's an evaluation process that happens. I feel like a catty high school girl right now, like talking about composers like this. But
Composer talking trash.
right, yeah.
This is the only place this will ever happen, just so you know. Like I said, this is like we're hanging out in the living room. This isn't,
You know, Mark Twain had a quote on Wagner that said, his music's much better than it sounds.
Nice.
I like that. Speaking of catty.
Well, with that insight, is there anything, when people go see these movies and see that, the Star Wars, stuff and get all lost in it, is there any kind of special stuff that we should be listening for from that kind of composer perspective that we should kind of be paying attention for that, I think this in itself may have opened some eyes as far as kind of what's going on when you're going to see, live art like this, but is there anything specifically to these Star Wars movies that people should have their ears up kind of open for?
Well, I think what you should, I'll give you 2 answers. And the first one is, obviously, these concerts are designed for you to listen to the score more so than if you were actually going to go see the movie. So you get to focus on the music more than the plot. But I wouldn't listen too closely. the effect of this music is to accompany the movie and to put you in a certain mood. And you can listen as much as you want or as little as you want. But one of the things that is really unique about using John Williams for our movie concerts is that John Williams is a composer who's known for taking parts of the regular repertoire, like Sorcerer's Apprentice by Dukas, or Holst's The Planets, or even Hans Zimmer uses Shostakovich. They use moments from the repertoire and use it in the films. So what we are playing is actually very much what we do every week. It's not this other concert we're just putting on and like, you know, hey, come see us. No, this is what we do. And what you're hearing John write in the movies is some of the greatest moments in the repertoire that's been written for going back 200 years. So if you like this, if you enjoy this type of music, talk to the symphony. They'll be able to tell you exactly what show to go see where you're going to hear something like that. So, and John is really special in a lot of other movies that he's done. He'll use things like Vaughan Williams or Mozart, or even Schindler's List, which is an unbelievably powerful score, is drawn from parts of the repertoire. I can't think of it right now because I'm on air, but it is exactly what we do every day. And orchestral music has such a rich tradition that I would encourage everyone to explore some more of it if you get the chance.
And that's why we're here tonight, right? All right. This can go either way. It's going to be an amazing moment, or it can be a total train wreck. But I'm a professional radio broadcaster, so I can handle either way. But we're going to open up the room to your questions.
Who's got a question? We got
Does
one
anyone
right
have a
here, in the
question?
middle.
Anybody?
In the middle, Mike.
All right, hold on.
Oh, you got it? Can you reach it?
I'm going to have to steal that microphone and bring it back to you. Here we go. Okay, maybe I don't know how to do this. You have a question? You need to stand up. Why don't you kind of squeeze up here? We're going to I'll climb on the couch. There we go.
Thank you for climbing on the couch. Wind down, okay. I was just curious, who are the bad composers? No, not legit question. You don't have to say. Okay, I'm gonna put people on the spot since it's an all kind of wind instrument group here. Holst or Shostakovich, which would you rather play and why? You have to pick one.
Who wants to tackle that one?
There you go.
I have to pick one. This is tough. I love both of them. I legitimately really love both. We played the Planets earlier this year, and we played Shostakovich earlier this year. The Planets has a choir going with it. It's also based what John Williams based Star Wars on, so it's kind of hard not to say to Holst, but there's a lot more really awesome Shostakovich symphonies that I love to dig into. I'll play the Planets any day of the week, and I'll be excited. Like one of the first big symphony concerts I ever saw was Montreal Live in the summertime, and it was it was at an amphitheater, so I was under the stars, and it was just like super cool to hear the Planets for the first time like that. But Shostakovich, it really speaks. Like the Planets is about trying to make characters like a personality for each of the planet. If you haven't heard this symphony, it's fantastic. You like Star Wars? Go check out Holst the Planet. But Shostakovich has so much history and depth and hardship and heart to it that you can't help but finish that. Like the Planets, you leave and you're just kind of like, oh, that was so cool. But Shostakovich, it's a weight, it's a volume, it's a depth. It's got so much substance that you can't help but wonder what it must have been like in his lifetime being under that kind of pressure from the government. He was under the gun for his life, literally, and writing this music, trying to stick it to the government a bit. His music is very deep, but very relatable, even if you haven't had even a fraction of what his life was. So I'd pick Shostakovich. I'm sorry, Holst, but that's my pick.
That was a fascinating debate with yourself, though. I mean, I got to say, that was like, I'm like, he's going this way,
Back
he's going
and forth,
this way.
back and forth.
Okay, we got another question here.
Oh, I got some kiddos.
I have a question.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them who you are.
I'm Kira Kennedy, and I'm 10. And I have a question for the person who is the triple threat.
Yes, he's listening.
Okay. 2 years ago, did you do the trumpet? I think at the Nutcracker.
Triple threat. He's gonna have
I'm
a
like-
jacket made. I can see it already.
So cute.
I know I'm crying.
Thanks for that question. Every year I've been in the ballet. I think maybe 3 years. I moved to town. I had my job in the opera, and I played. This is my 10th season there. So for the past 3 years or 4 years maybe, I've been in the ballet, and we do 30 performances in the Nutcracker every year. It kind of feels like the movie Groundhog Day, if any of you guys have seen that. And so very likely I was playing. It depends. You know, sometimes we sub out or something, but it's very, very frequently it's me in there.
We got time for one more question.
One more
Now
question.
everyone has a question.
Get in the back.
Get in the back. I'm getting in the back.
Get in the back.
I'm gonna
Towards
go
the
as
middle.
far as the
Towards
cord
middle.
can
There you
reach.
go.
Here we go. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Ed, and I was wondering, does the movie ever change for the music? Meaning, do they ever re-edit the movie to accommodate the music?
Who has an answer for that?
So speaking of John Williams, he's got a long relationship with Steven Spielberg, and there's I can't remember the movie right now, and I apologize, but there's a story in the industry where John had written the music, and they were in the recording session, and he was trying to coordinate with the film, and it just wasn't working, and he kept trying, and Spielberg finally said, why don't you just play what you wrote, how you want it to sound? And so John did, and Spielberg said, okay, and he went and recut the movie. And he said, at first he was not sure it was going to work, and intellectually he thought, this part's probably just gonna fall flat on its face, and he went back and was like, John, you were absolutely right. I know.
What movie was it? I'm like
I want to
so
say
curious.
it was Indiana Jones. I want to say it was the train scene. Yeah.
We'll take your word for it.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you guys once again for coming out and playing. That was super, super awesome.
Make sure to go to the San Francisco Symphony, check out their movie nights and everything else that they're doing.